5 immersive worlds, 1 amazing theme park. Get ready to explore the all-new Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, Super Nintendo World, How to Train Your Dragon, Isle of Berk, and Dark Universe. Epic Universe opens May 22nd at Universal Orlando Resort. Our universe will never be the same. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
It's The Other Side of Midnight with Frank Morano.
This is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. Thank you for listening. Whenever I have Jeffrey Lichtman on, it's a real treat because the reaction, I can honestly say this, the reaction that I get when he comes on is unlike the reaction I get from any other guest. I would say it's about 65 to 70% overwhelmingly positive. Now, when I say overwhelmingly positive, it's the sort of thing where people say, you should have that guy on every day. Oh, how can we listen to him instead of you? He's the greatest. You need to have him for 4 hours. And then there's about 15 to 20% that can't stand what he says. And they say, we turn off the radio immediately when he comes on. And then the rest say, I don't think I like what he says, but I can't stop listening. Now, the reason I mention that is because Jeffrey Lichtman is such a compelling commentator on legal issues, on political issues, on issues involving foreign affairs, and just about everything, from baseball cards to Subway sandwiches, that it's easy to forget he's also an incredibly well-regarded, well-respected criminal defense attorney. I can tell you that as someone that's seen him firsthand in some of the most talked-about trials over the course of the last 20 years. And the reason I mention that is because the most talked about legal case in the world right now is the case involving Sean P. Diddy Combs. Now, Jeffrey is not representing Sean Combs, but he is indeed representing his son, Justin. We'll find out what that's all about. But first, let me welcome back to the program veteran criminal defense attorney and the host of Beyond the Legal Limit, the podcast, Jeffrey Lichtman. Hi, Jeffrey.
Wow, Frank, that was such a great introduction, but there are people that listen to your show that don't like me?
It's hard to believe. Most of them probably wear red berets, right? But
of course, exactly.
It is what it is. All right, Jeffrey, before we get into your involvement with this case, this occurred right before we got on the air yesterday, so we didn't, and the indictment hadn't even been unsealed at this point. Explain to folks what the charges are against Sean P. Diddy Combs. What's he being accused of?
Well, he's charged with racketeering, kidnapping, forced labor, arson, bribery, things like that. A bunch of unpleasant charges. It's a little bit of an odd indictment to me, considering how long they've been investigating him. In that they describe his organization, because for a racketeering conspiracy, there's got to be a racketeering organization.
Right, like a mafia family or a gang.
Yeah, and normally the point of the gang or the family or the criminal enterprise is to generate money for the people in the enterprise. In this one, it was to enhance Mr. Combs' lifestyle and his reputation, to satisfy his sexual needs. And, it just seems like a little bit of a weird usage of the racketeering statute for a guy that mainly the concern is that he was using and abusing women for his own sexual purposes. So it's a little odd. I'm not saying that it's a fatal flaw to the indictment, but it's not your typical case for where they're mostly policing his sexual behavior. Now, granted, there's crimes that are alleged, and I don't disregard that, but it's just a little bit odd for a Southern District indictment.
Now, but obviously, to the extent that you can be objective, because I realize you're tangentially involved in the case, tell me, is this a strong case? Is this a weak case? Is this something in between? What do you think?
It's hard to tell because it's really early. And look, I represent Justin, his son, and until last night, I thought that Justin would be indicted with his father. they were certainly, I don't know if I would say targeting him, but he was certainly part of the investigation, and they ended up not charging him. So I think it's a strong case. I think the biggest problem with the case is that most people just hate Sean Combs. And that's a problem when you're in New York City. You've got a New York City jury. And I think that the publicity has been so bad for so long now that people are really going to prejudge him. And it's going to take strong lawyering to convince the jury not to believe the hype and to view the evidence objectively and to give this guy a fair shake, much the way we had the issues with John Gotti Jr. back, 20 years ago.
Well, but I mean, I could see some big differences between John Gotti Jr. and Sean P. Diddy Combs. I realize Combs has gotten a lot of bad press since the lawsuits were filed and since that video of him beating up his girlfriend was plastered all over the world. But John Gotti Jr., at the time you were representing him, had been in prison for, I guess, about 7 or 8 years. And that name, John Gotti, was just, as you said in your opening statement in that trial, was just synonymous with crime and criminality. People have not always viewed the name Sean Combs as being synonymous with crime. A lot of people like Sean Combs.
There's no question. I mean, I wouldn't suggest for a second that Sean Combs' name or infamy or the prejudice that he's going to receive a trial even approaches what John Gotti Jr. had, maybe 5%. But it's sort of like the same type of issue, just much less. I mean, listen, until recently, Sean Combs was very well thought of in New York City. We have the Mayor Eric Adams, mayor in the club, and he gave him one of those giant keys to the city,
which he had to give back.
A year ago,
he had to give back. Thank goodness. And now he can't get in.
With the key, I don't even know what the key opened up. It probably opened up the clubs for Mayor Adams because when he's putting on his jewelry in his ears, he's got to get into the club instead of actually governing the city. But I digress, Frank.
So talk to me about your involvement in this case. Why does his son need a lawyer? Why was it thought that his son would be indicted as part of the case? What's the son thought to have been investigated for?
I frankly didn't think Justin did a damn thing wrong. And I was shocked the way he was treated when they searched his father's home in Los Angeles. They treated him like a criminal. I mean, this is a kid that has no issues. He's a quiet, respectful kid. But there were allegations made civilly against him that he was doing things with his father. I always felt that if the prosecutors were going to indict the father, that they would leave the kid out. But, you never know until the indictment comes down. And when I heard that Diddy had been arrested, I was concerned about the son, and thankfully he wasn't charged. This is one of those cases where, I didn't want to be involved. I wanted the kid to get off. I actually like him, and I think he's a solid kid, and I didn't want him to be charged because even just going through the system is brutal. I mean, look what happened with Diddy today. He was denied bail. They're going to appeal it tomorrow. I don't know if that's going to work. May or may not, but this is a tough situation, in terms of being denied bail and having to be in the MDC for the next year or two. This is a godforsaken prison. It's the worst, one of the worst prisons in the country. I had a sentencing today, and a judge said to me, you're describing your client was in a horrible prison in Madrid where there were no doctors and he got COVID and it was 110 degrees. Like, whatever you're telling me isn't as bad as the MDC in Brooklyn. And the judge was right.
At 30 minutes after the hour, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano, talking with Jeffrey Lichtman. It's funny that you mentioned the MDC because they're now no longer going to allow people serving sentences to be there, which was so interesting to me that they're still allowing people that aren't convicted of anything to be sent there, but not once people are actually serving sentences, then they can't go there.
But short sentences. Can I just say one thing? I'd like to just maybe give some inside baseball to the listeners about the bail hearing today. He lost, obviously, and look, you don't win these types of things a lot when they're in these very high-profile, infamous cases like Gotti or even Sean Combs. But I was impressed with the lawyering.
That's exactly what I was going to ask you. Good.
Yeah, I was impressed with it because the lawyer is Mark Agnifilo. He's not someone I consider a close friend, but he's someone in the business that I respect. And he had an incredibly uphill battle, but he did a bunch of things in the time leading up to the arrest, the indictment, to put himself in a better position to get bail. And it was something that some of the things that I would have done, and I was impressed because I never see this with lawyers, that they actually are capable of thinking more than one step ahead. And what he did is he made sure that Sean was in New York, that he was prepared to surrender. He told the prosecutors everywhere he went for the last 6-9 months, this is where he's going, so that later, all of this was done so that later he could claim to a judge in a bail hearing, look, he's no flight risk. I mean, the issues are flight risk and danger to the community. He's no flight risk because, look, we've been telling them where he was for the last 9 months. We had him in New York this week. The night that he was arrested, we offered to have him self-surrender, and they turned it down. All those things are smart things that you do to try to push the scale, I suppose, in your favor. Of course, after they arrested Sean Combs in his hotel room, they found pink powder that they expected to be narcotics. That's the kind of things that as a lawyer, you just kind of smack your head and you're like, look, I tried. Sometimes it just doesn't work out. But I was impressed with the lawyering. I was impressed with the efforts that were made. You just don't see that very often. I don't know how it's going to translate a year or two from now when there's a trial, but I thought that Mark did more than 99% of the lawyers in this city would do in a situation such as that.
Come back to that situation about him not getting bail. Even Bernie Madoff got bail. Do you think that was an incorrect decision for the judge to deny Combs bail, given the fact that the two criteria that you're supposed to keep in mind are flight risk and danger to the community?
I think it was a tough call. I don't think that he's a flight risk, for all the reasons that Agnifilo said in court today. I mean, you're posting $50 million worth of bond. He's going to wear a bracelet on his ankle. I mean, you're going to know exactly where he is. But the issue is the stuff that's behind closed doors. The reason why I believe he got detained is because there's evidence or allegations, at least, of obstruction of justice, that he'd been contacting potential victims over the last year and trying to convince them to change their stories. There's allegations that he offered them things of value. I mean, I've had cases like this where we knew we were getting, our client was going to get indicted, and even people in the music industry. And in the year prior to the indictment, we're finding out who the feds are speaking to. I'm going to visit them. I'm bringing an investigator. We're recording statements, and we're doing everything we can to get ahead of the government so that they don't just, you don't want to just get indicted, just sit there, wait to get indicted and get convicted. I mean, man, this is a war for someone's life. So you're doing everything and anything you can to blunt the government's thrusts. But you got to be careful, because if you go too far, you're accused of obstruction of justice, which I think is what ultimately doomed him today. And I've had this in cases. I remember meeting one of the main witnesses in a drug case in federal prison, and I had her write out a statement that completely obliterated her on the stand when she testified 6 months later. I mean, there were allegations against me. Hey, that sort of obstruction, was brought to the judge, and the judge said no. He went in, he did an interview, and told her who he was, and she wrote what she wrote. I mean, but you can imagine the government doesn't take kindly to it, and they always want to assume that you're doing something wrong if, God forbid, you dare to try to stop their case from going forward.
Experience a progressive lens engineered with AI from Essilor, powered by individual measurements of your visual behavior. A lens personalized to you by an Essilor expert. Discover Verilux XR Track and enjoy instantly sharp vision in motion and seamless transitions from near to far. Find your local Essilor expert today at Essilor.com.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
Home means something different to everyone. But with Rocket Mortgage, home can mean even more. It can mean a college education, taming your high-interest debt, even a renovation. We've made it easier than ever to use your home equity. That home you worked so hard for, now it can work hard for you. Call 800-4ROCKET or visit rocket.com to find out more.
Rocket Mortgage, LLC, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSConsumerAccess.org, number 3030.
At Sephora, we've got what you want because you're obsessed with your skin, and we're obsessed with what it needs. Sephora has the best products to help you get beautiful, glowing, radiant skin. With an extensive, inclusive range of results-driven formulas and in-store beauty advisors to help you find exactly which are right for you, the best skincare is only at Sephora. Sephora, for all your skincare.
If you're just tuning in, this is The Other Side of Midnight. I'm Frank Morano. Jeffrey, back in April, you had accused the feds of trying to dirty the jury pool with press leaks in this case. Do you believe that's what they're continuing to try to do here?
Well, today I wouldn't say that because it was a public bail hearing and they laid it all out, and the indictment isn't certainly very specific. But, that's what happens. And what happened in April is exactly the reason why they did it, and they do this to a lot of my clients. You'll see an anonymous DEA source, anonymous FBI source is saying this, saying that. I mean, look, we had it with El Chapo's kids in the Chicago case. And we had anonymous DEA agent says that one of them is in the witness protection program. Another one was released from prison when the other one came from Mexico in July, that they did it with a deal with the feds to get the other son released. Just complete lies. But it does end up flavoring a potential jury pool because the people that are in the jury are reading this stuff, and it's all lies. I mean, it's absolutely lies. But what am I to do, Frank? All I can do is cry about it on my podcast and tell the truth about what happened, that neither of my clients that are in Chicago in prison are in the witness protection program, and one of them is not out. But if you read the media, an anonymous DEA agent says otherwise. I mean, it's frustrating.
That is crazy. All right, want to pick your brain on one or two other issues while I have you on the horn here. Yesterday, I was talking with Judge Andrew Napolitano about the situation involving Mayor Eric Adams. We've now seen his buildings commissioner. Seems like ancient history because it's a couple of years ago. He's under indictment. We've seen scores of other people that have bundled for him take guilty pleas. We've seen the police raid his police commissioner, his school's chancellor, two of his deputy mayors, and now the police commissioner himself has actually resigned in the midst of all this scrutiny. His chief legal counsel resigned at 10:30 on a Saturday night, which I don't think you would generally consider a good sign. Legally and politically, both or either, do you see any way that Eric Adams survives all this?
Well, survive. I mean, the FBI took his phones as well.
Right.
I mean, the guy is obviously, look, far be it from me to accuse him of being a criminal without being charged or convicted, as I'm a defense lawyer. But this guy is the mayor of the biggest city in the world. He should be judged at a higher level than regular people, Frank. And when everybody in your orbit is under investigation or is a criminal, look, the fish stinks from the head down. And let me tell you, that mayor in the club, he stinks from the head down. And, does he survive it? I don't know. I think we need somebody actually competent would be nice to have in office. Forget all of his potential criminality and all of his low-life friends in his orbit. And they're pretty much all low-lifes. But the guy's also a lousy mayor. I mean, he's completely ineffective. He's never around. He's always talking about himself in the third person like he thinks he's Bo Jackson. He's got the jewelry. He's got the clubs. He's doing that. I mean, this guy's a disgrace. He's frankly an embarrassment. I didn't think it was possible that we could do worse than de Blasio. Now, I'm not saying that this guy's worse than de Blasio because I think you'd have to literally be trying to blow the city up in order to be worse than de Blasio, but he's close, and that's bad enough.
I can't help but remind you that you were tied for the single largest donor to Bill de Blasio's mayoral campaign. I'm glad, though, that you had the good sense to at least not make that same contribution to Eric Adams, as far as we know.
No, that would never happen because he would just take my money and he'd buy bigger, diamond earrings, and it's not just one diamond earring, Frank. He's got to have two. He's got to have one in each ear because he loves the jewelry. He loves the jewelry when he goes to the club.
I think they are at least lab-grown diamonds, so at least they're ecologically sound. All right. While I have you here, I can't avoid asking you about what happened in Lebanon today. For people that haven't heard about this, we've seen Hezbollah hit by a wave of exploding pagers. They blamed Israel, at least 9 people dead, thousands injured. Some people are saying this shows Israel's sophistication in terms of executing targeted strikes and not just blowing up buildings, not caring about who's in them. Other folks are saying, look, there was an 8-year-old girl can know where these pagers were going. And this is, if this was China or Iran tampering with cell phones coming to the United States, even if they were being sent to soldiers, we'd call this terrorism. Give me your view on this whole pager situation.
Anybody who criticizes what Israel did today is just exposing himself as being a Muslim terror supporter. Keep in mind that these were 5,000 pagers that Israel apparently got its hands on as it was leaving, I guess, the factories in Taiwan on their way to Hezbollah, who ordered them. This is 2024, Frank. It's not 1986. Nobody uses pagers anymore. When was the last time? You probably never used a pager. You're too young. So nobody uses pagers except if you're a Muslim terror organization and you're concerned about using cell phones because you know that Israel is capable of tracking the cell phones. So they go down to this low technology pager because they think that Israel will not be able to track it. So nobody had those pagers but the Hezbollah people that they were ordered for, which is why when thousands of them blew up at the same time because there was an explosive put in there by Israel. Wouldn't you know that of the thousands of people that were injured, like 99% of them were Hezbollah, were adult men. You see people with their hands blown off, with their eyeballs blown. They're all Hezbollah. The fact that they claim that there was one girl that was killed, first of all, I don't even believe it because they're incapable of telling the truth, Hezbollah. And even then, would it be better for Israel to simply treat Lebanon the way Lebanon treats Israel by just launching 1,000 rockets into Israel indiscriminately? And for what reason? They started on October 8th for no reason other than the fact they wanted to terrorize Israel. Israel had no war that was going on with Lebanon at the time. So the idea that Israel fought back the way they did in the most incredible pinpoint strike, maybe in the history of global warfare, for anybody to criticize it just shows, look, you obviously hate Israel or you hate Jews, or you just are a simp for Muslim terror. There's no other explanation. What Israel should have done today was, while there was disarray and blood in the streets and eyeballs on the ground and hands blown off and fingers blown off, they should have started bombing the living hell out of Hezbollah. That's what they should have done. They could have gone in and invaded today and started destroying them. They shouldn't have done it and give them one more chance to realize that they're going to be destroyed if they continue to bomb Israel. There's 70,000 Israelis that haven't been in their homes since last October 8th. Since when is that not an escalation? Since when is that not a war? Israel should have started obliterating them today. I'm greatly disappointed that after the pagers blew up that they didn't go in there and start finishing them off. Because, look, they started the war, Hezbollah, just the way Hamas did. You can't cry after and say, look, you need to stop and give us a ceasefire. It's very simple. You started the war, you either surrender or you fight to the death, to the end. And for some reason, Muslim terrorists in Lebanon and Gaza, they don't seem to understand how wars work. And, of course, all the leftists that support them feel the same way.
Finally, Jeffrey, we had been hearing after Israel took out the senior Hamas political leader in Tehran that Iran was going to launch some sort of major retaliatory attack, a real retaliatory attack, not the sort of designed to fail drone attack that occurred a couple of months before that. One of the people that was injured in this attack yesterday was Iran's ambassador to Lebanon. Are you concerned, as an advocate of Israel, that this may lead to retaliatory action from Iran, which never really came around after the last assassination?
Well, it didn't come around because they know that Israel is capable of obliterating Iran. They know that Israel is capable very easily, which is what they did after that last attack in April, of going in and destroying their oil production facilities, which would basically bankrupt Iran. So they're smart enough to realize, or at least they're smart enough for a bunch of savage cavemen terrorists, that if they go after Israel, they may not really be existing for much longer. So they recognize that. Am I concerned that Israel, by killing or maiming, whatever, injuring the ambassador? I wish he was dead, frankly. He's a terrorist. I mean, he's from a terror nation. He's aligned with Hezbollah. He's a terrorist. He should be dead. Am I concerned? No, because I think that the only way this stops, where Israel is getting bombarded on every possible front, it's only going to stop when the mullahs in Iran are taken out, and this ridiculous dance that's been going on for so many years, it's got to finally come to a head. There should be nations across the globe that are working with Israel to finally remove this cancerous tumor, which is what they call Israel, the cancerous tumor of the Iranian mullahs, and finally get the worst state sponsor of terror in the world taken off the table. Because without them, what happens to the Houthis? What happens to Hezbollah? What happens to Hamas? What happens to Assad in Syria? All those dominoes start to fall because they don't have their terror sponsor. So I really wish that Israel would get on with this. I felt they should have done it today with Hezbollah. And look, America has a great interest in helping Israel destroy the Iranian mullahs, because look how many Americans have been killed and maimed by Iran in the last 20 years. I mean, many, thousands.
Jeffrey, I have to end it there. Let's do this again soon. Keep us posted on any developments with this Combs case, especially.
Thanks so much, Frank, for having me, as always.
Thank you. If you want to comment on any portion of our discussion, give me a call, 646-720-0635. That's 646-720-0635. This is The Other Side of Midnight. Straight ahead.